there, I'm Beth from Creatively Beth, and today we're going to show you how to make a weighted blanket with a fun pocket and this great sensory monster. He's weighted with Poly Pellets and he's stuffed with Poly-fil. And this is all product from fairfieldworld.com. And let's get started. First, we're going to take our fleece and we are going to take our pattern pieces and pin them to the fleece. We're going to cut out our pattern pieces with scissors. Once the pattern pieces are cut out, we're going to stitch them with the sewing machine, leaving a seam allowance just the width of your presser foot. Once we have the pieces stitched, we're then going to cut on the curves to allow the turning out to be completed more easily. Then we're going to have our pattern piece that's turned out and it's ready to stuff. So we're going to stuff that with the Poly Pellets. And I love the Poly Pellets in this new packaging because it's got the pour spout built right in and you've got the reclosable spout. So you don't need an extra funnel or any other equipment. You just take the Poly Pellets and fill those right into our stitched pattern piece. And then you just put that right down. So now we've got a little beanbag foot. And the next step is going to be to take your stuffed foot and you're going to stitch across where the knee would be. Then after that step, we are going to stuff the top part of the leg of the monster with the Poly-fil. And then of course, each of the Poly-fil bags always include a stuffing tool so that you can get all of the Poly-fil pushed down into all of the nooks and crannies of your stuffed project more easily. And that's our legs. We're back with the next step in our sensory monster, and what we're going to do next is we've done the same steps as the legs and we've created two arms. To make him extra sensory, what I've done is I've taken plastic packaging from some scrapbooking scissors that I had in my house, and I have just cut strips out of the plastic packaging, and then we have put those plastic strips inside our monster arm, and we're going to push those all the way down to his fingers, just like so. Then we are going to stuff him with some Poly-fil, and again, we love that our Poly-fil always comes with a stuffing tool so that we can get all of the filling down into his fingers and get a nice, good, solid stuff. All right. So then once that's completed, you have a stuffed arm and he's got a little crinkle in his fingers. We're moving along with our sensory monster today, and we are going to create his fun, crazy hair. This is another wonderful product from Fairfield World called Olifun, and it is a recyclable material that can be cut. It doesn't fray. It can be stitched, it can be stamped, it can be glued. But what we're going to do today is take our section, we're going to fold it in half, we're going to create fringe, but we're not going to cut all the way through the fold at the top. We're going to leave that fold intact and just cut some fringed hairs as such. And then we'll end up with a piece like this. Then once we get ready to pin, we're going to fold it into thirds to create a more full and voluptuous hair for our funny monster. So our next step, in order to give our monster a little bit of weight, we have created a little pouch that's going to go up inside his body. Again, I've cut just a basic rectangle out of fleece, and I've done a seam allowance the width of my pressure foot. I've left an opening so that he can be filled again with the poly pellets. And I always like to fit my opening onto the container before I tip it over so that you don't have poly pellets all over the floor. And then you just tip that over, fill up your pouch, and then just tilt it backwards again so that the pellets that are in the neck of the container go back into the bag. Okay. And then you're just going to go ahead and sew your bean bag closed, and that's going to go inside our monster's body. Next step for our sensory monster today is going to be to pin our arms and our hair onto the body. So what I've done with our monster here is I have done him so that his body is wrong sides to wrong sides so that you can see his stitched edge, which I think is really fun and cute. So we're going to take our monster body and place our hair inside, place our arms inside like that, and then we're going to be pinning wrong sides to wrong sides, which is a little bit different than most sewing projects. Got my straight pins here, and we're going to go ahead and pin him all together so that get him ready for stitching. So then once we get him all pinned, we're going to take him over to the sewing machine and get his body sewn up. We have gotten our sewing machine out, and we're going to go ahead and get our monster body sewn up. The first step, we've again pinned in our hair, we've pinned in our arms, and I'm going to, the big U shape of his body, I'm going to go ahead and get that sewn. Then what I like to do when I'm sewing with the extra limbs is I like to go ahead and put his little arm up there in the sewing machine and help that just along just a little bit. Again, seam allowance is just the width of your presser foot. Okay, I'm going to get him sewn and I'll see you on the other side. So we're going to go ahead, we've gone ahead and stitched our monster body. His arms are attached and his hair is attached. So we're going to go ahead and put his face on. You can see that I've got 3 fun buttons here, and we're just going to take an embroidery needle and some embroidery floss and go up inside his little body there. And I've used shank buttons, but you could definitely use, you could stitch on some olifun, you could stitch on some traditional buttons, or you could stitch on some shank buttons. So that's what I've done here today, is we've added our monster's face with shank buttons. We're going to do the final steps to get our monster all done and stuffed and ready to be hugged. So what we're going to do next, we went ahead and sewed around the top edge of our monster, and the next step we're going to do is we've got our bean bag with our poly pellets in it, and we are going to place that right inside the monster body, and then we're going to take our favorite Poly-fil. We're going to stuff his little body. And this is the nice thing about Poly-fil, is if you like a really stuffed monster, you can stuff him really full, or if you like him to be a little bit squishier, you don't have to stuff him quite so full. You can use a little bit less Poly-fil. Okay, so we've got that all stuffed. Now we've got our 2 legs that we've got poly pellets in the bottom, we've got our stitch here for the knee, and then we've got our Poly-fil in the top part of the leg. We're going to insert those into the opening at the bottom of our monster. And the good thing about monsters is they don't need to be perfect. His legs can be different lengths, they can be different sizes, they can be different shapes. So it really is just a matter of whatever your imagination can dream up for a monster. And if you're making this for a child, Fun part would be to get them to actually draw the monster that they want you to create and build patterns off of that. So we're going to go ahead and pin the legs onto the monster and close the bottom section of our monster, and then we're going to go ahead and get this stitched. So we've got our monster finished, but he really needs a home. So what I'm going to show you is the brand new Fairfield World 6-pound weighted blanket. It's already pre-filled with the glasslet beads, and I'm going to show you how to go ahead and insert the blanket into a cover that I have previously sewn. So there's loops at the top, center, and at the corners of the blanket insert, and I'm going to go ahead and lace my ribbon through the loop. I'm going to just tie one knot, and then I'm going to go ahead and tie a bow like that, and I'm going to repeat that with the rest of the 8 loops that are on the blanket insert. All right, so here we are back again, and I have gone ahead and tied 7 of the 8 ties around the blanket insert. We have left an opening, and I've got my last tie. That is going to end up being the closure for our opening. Since this is a sewn cover, we want to be able to make sure that we can take the cover off of the insert and be able to launder the cover. So I've left my opening, and I'm going to show you how easy it is. You want to get your hands up in each one of the top corners, grab those, and then we're going to turn it out and fluff it, just like so. It just takes a minute to get everything properly arranged. And then what we're going to do with our final ribbons is we're going to go ahead and put those ribbons through the loop. And that will close the opening to the blanket. Go ahead and tie it with a nice bow, just like so. And we'll grab our corners and we'll fluff it out a little bit. And you can see, oops, there we go. You can see that I have added a pocket on the front of my blanket for my monster. So here's our finished monster and his cute little personality. He really just needs a name now. We're not really sure what to name him, but what you can do is place your monster in the pocket, and then you've got your fun weighted blanket and your monster. Where's his arm? There's his arm. So here's our finished project, a great child-size weighted blanket with the insert. And then we have our sensory monster, and he's all snuggled in that pocket in the front, and a great gift for any child. You can find this project and many other projects like this on fairfieldworld.com. Thanks for joining me today. Happy crafting.